What's up, you guys? It's Mr. Hamilton again. My eighth graders stand at 8.2, point 3, and 8.1.1. We're talking about the growth and development of the country and into statehood. So also a little bit of 8.2.4 as well. They're all collectively a part of this review on the War of 1812. All right, so let's dive into this slide, show you guys, see what's going on. Go right to the top. All right, Battle of New Orleans, War of 1812. This is the last major battle of the War of 1812. We just want to dive into the main components of it. It'll be a real short video. We want to know first that the War of 1812, or Battle of New Orleans, was fought between the British and the Americans, a group of, as it's referred to in this slide, a ragtag group of American forces led by Jackson. Andrew Jackson was a lead general. It was a makeshift army, a melting pot army, so to speak, which is a great representation of the United States, being that we combined or created by so many different culture and ethnic groups. So you have regular U.S. Army troops, you got local militiamen from the area, Choctaw Indians, former black former Haitian slaves, free men of color, Kentucky and Tennessee frontiersmen armed with deadly long rifles, and you have pirates from the Barataria area of John Lafitte and his group that we learned about last couple classes. Now you're facing you got 4,000 soldiers. You're facing a British army of trained soldiers from all over the world as well. They had about 1,000 black soldiers as well. That's something that we need to note. But trained soldiers that have been trained to the point when they fought in multiple wars, skilled, and they are the greatest navy in the world at the time, 1812. But you have Andrew Jackson, who has had a lot of military experience. Most of the stuff he learned early on in battles firsthand. And he is from Tennessee, a fierce leader, stern but fair guy, who has a lot of respect in military circles. He fought against Native Americans early on in many of the battles, like the Creek battles. He is considered to be one of the finest representations of our military at the time. All right, so let's get to the Battle of New Orleans. It was actually about a 6-month campaign, a series of 4 major battles to control the port of New Orleans. As we see, anytime it's dealing with, I guess you could say, Louisiana as a whole, anything west of the Mississippi, that port is going to always be a major factor because it allows us to be able to have access to the entire world, and be able to trade internationally. And the economy is relying heavily on that at the time, so we have to be able to control that. If we get it cut off by an incoming force like the British at the time, we would really be forced probably to surrender because we don't have control of our money. Access to the West. Why is New Orleans so important? Vital port, once again, access to the Gulf, increasing international trade, access to the West as well. Could potentially cut off the center of the United States from access to international trade and transportation, as I just said. That port in the Mississippi River is the most important thing. It's the prize jewel at the time, 1812. Without access to this port, what would happen? All right, think about that question. What could possibly happen if we don't have access to that port? All right, so American victory at New Orleans forced the British to recognize the U.S. claims, all right, to Louisiana and West Florida. Remember, West Florida at this time is considered to be like the plantation area where we are right now in Baton Rouge, Pride area, all the way extended to the panhandle of Florida today, and some parts of southern Mississippi and southern Alabama. But they start, after this victory, they recognize that as our land, as a part of the United States now, because before it was a part of Spain still. All right, so the Treaty of Ghent is a treaty that officially was signed to end the war. The war technically ended in stalemate, meaning that there was no really official victor, but it was an agreement to identify that this is the end of the war. We won't continue fighting, and the U.S. is recognized as a individual country. All right, and those areas of contention are no longer up for grasp by anyone other than the U.S. All right. But this also identified Louisiana as a part of the U.S. after this point. Up until this point, we were considered to be, I guess, just a territory. we were purchased by Louisiana purchase took place and purchased from France, but up until this point we were just a lone territory. Really hadn't taken the steps to full statehood yet. Andrew Jackson becomes a national hero, and the United States regains control over the port, which is the most important aspect, and also the interior lands, because as we see here, drained by the Mississippi River keeps access to sea for trade. Once again, trade, port of New Orleans is always going to be a major important factor when you're talking about, I guess you say, the expansion of the United States into the West. Louisiana is key to that. All right. Once again, as you can see, slow mail. We don't have cell phones, 1812, so the Battle of New Orleans really wasn't supposed to even take place. So the war was technically over, because the treaty was signed it was signed actually in Europe, and it didn't reach the U.S. for 2 months. So it never really had to happen. The war was over already, but it helped the country establish, the U.S. establish itself as a national power, as an international power, and gain the respect of many nations that will in the future become allies, and a growing sense of nationalism spread across the country as citizens. I mean, you win a war and you beat the greatest naval power in the world. Of course, you're going to be excited and you're going to be feeling yourself. So they had pride in their country, nationalism. So nothing was really lost. The Americans considered it a triumph no matter what, especially after the Battle of New Orleans. And when the treaty again had gained so little, why did most Americans consider the war a victory? Because we beat the mess out of the British in that very last battle. That very last battle, Battle of New Orleans, really set the tone for the entire war. So, lasting impact. What were the effects of the conclusion of the War of 1812? And once again, this is known. You'll see it sometimes in questions. It'll be referred to as the Second War for Independence. It's known as that because, think about it, as I said at the beginning of this lesson when we started, this is the second time we're fighting Great Britain. Our first time was the Revolutionary War. We beat them there as well. So this put America on the map as an international power, no longer an awkward teenager, as it says in there. We gained respect from other nations that would eventually become allies. The young nation now had international recognition and is known as a force to be reckoned with. So people don't take us lightly anymore. All right. So this is an assignment that you have. All right. So you're going to play the role of a sportscaster. In 2 paragraphs, you're going to write a play-by-play radio show detailing the events at the Battle of New Orleans. Exciting and detailed are the key elements. So just like any sportscaster, you're going to sell that story, make me understand what really took place, who were the key players in it, who did what, and make it exciting, just like a sportscaster. Look up some videos on YouTube to get you an example of that. Or you can do option 2, rewrite history. In 2 paragraphs, describe what would have happened following a loss at the Battle of New Orleans. All right. So now we're going to infer what could possibly have taken place if we didn't win. What would have resulted if the battle had been won by the British? How would things have been different for the country today? So we're just going to infer and see what could have possibly taken place. I want you to do that assignment. Get back with me. Bring that to class tomorrow. And we'll go over it, and it'll help us get a mastery or advance on our next quiz on Wednesday. Thank you guys for watching. Let's keep grinding. We out.